Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to almost film of the year. Today's almost film of the year is John Schlesinger's Far From the Madding Crowd. So if you don't know, the film of the year still is The Night Porter, starring Charlotte Rampling and Dirk Bogarde by Liliana Cavani. But Far From the Madding Crowd is almost the film of the year. Now, as a younger person, Far From the Madding Crowd would not have interested me whatsoever. But watching it now, it's absolutely wonderful. We'll get it out of the way. It is absolutely gorgeous. Not that films, need 4Ks, but certainly Far From the Madding Crowd should have a 4K if it doesn't already. I don't think it does. Schlesinger's Darling with Julie Christie is getting a Studio Canal 4K, and I wouldn't necessarily say that needs a 4K, but Far From the Madding Crowd needs a 4K. It was shot by Nicholas Roeg. The famous sword sequence in the dunes of grass with Terence Stamp basically having foreplay with Julie Christie with a sword, not on her physical person, but that's essentially what the scene's about. Some of that was actually shot by Nick Roeg with Terence Stamp whenever they had downtime. There's a wonderful interview with Terence Stamp on this disc where he talks about this was the first time that he didn't get on with a director because Schlesinger preferred blondes, so he didn't really want Terence Stamp. So there was kind of friction between Schlesinger and Stamp, so it was actually Nicholas Roeg that shot some of that, some of those shots, which is really a dynamic part of the film. So based on the Thomas Hardy book, which obviously I haven't read, this is really about one woman, Julie Christie, and three men, three kind of archetypes of the male psyche. Here you get Terence Stamp, the lad about town who is in the army and has dealings with women, but he's fairly rotten to the core. You've got Peter Finch, who is the kind of rich landowner, and you've got Alan Bates, who is the shepherd. And all these men, strangely enough, gravitate towards Julie Christie. I can't imagine why. They all want to be with her, but this is really her film. She's the sun and they rotate around her like very strange planets. The film is a U certificate, even though we do see Terence Stamp's bottom, and there's also quite a lot of animal death. Some sheep do impersonations of lemmings. There's a dog death, and there's some cockfighting action. So if you like your animals breathing, this might not be the film for you. And alarmingly, there's no message at the end saying no sheep were harmed in the making of this film. Yeah, some sheep get poisoned as well at one point. So certainly there's animal goings on. I mean, Schlesinger for me isn't necessarily a great filmmaker. Midnight Cowboy is also a classic, and Darling and Marathon Man. Who can forget Pacific Heights? Well, probably quite a lot of people can forget Pacific Heights. But this is just absolutely wonderful. Again, I can't imagine liking it when I was younger, but there's just something about the destructive force and the fact that some characters have bad endings made me feel warm inside. I mean, not everybody dies in tragic and horrible ways. Maybe that would have made it my film of the year. So Julie Christie stars as Bathsheba, which is a fairly common English name. She ends up inheriting this farm. Alan Bates has already proposed to her when she was just a working girl, not that kind of working girl, when he's just got his own farm, but he has a disaster involving sheep, and he has to end up trying to get a job. Initially almost works for Peter Finch, but ends up working for Julie Christie. Peter Finch, who is the classic lord on the hill who owns farms and land himself. He's never let women touch his bodily fluids, but he has a liking for Julie Christie. Their eyes meet over a sack of corn, but she's not really sure. She doesn't really love Alan Bates at the start, she doesn't love Peter Finch. And then Terence Stamp, who is in the army, has some dealings with Fanny. That's a character, by the way. Once he has the hilarious scene where he snags Julie Christie's undergarments in the middle of the night, and they need to get untangled. They fall for each other as well, but as an audience you're constantly going, oh, he's too bad for you and you should marry him. No, not him, the other guy. No, don't do that, marry him. Now obviously it's an old-fashioned view of marriage. Both Bates and Finch basically want to marry her, and then she doesn't have to do any work, and they'll look after her. But Christie, who is one of those actors that I have kind of grown to admire more in the last 5 years or so, along with Bates, to be fair, she has that strong independence, wants to get her hands dirty herself. Doesn't just want to be, a kept woman, an object, a thing to be owned, which obviously in them their days, certainly the wives of the gentry were that kind of thing. So her character has a kind of modern feel, even though it's obviously set in the olden days. I don't want to get into the plot too much of what happens, but obviously different things happen to the four main characters as Julie Christie tries to navigate this, and there's wonderful scenes between the pairings of men and Julie Christie and the men. It's 166 minutes long. Doesn't feel like it because, again, you just get hooked to the characters. As I said, Julie Christie is brilliant in it. Alan Bates, despite having a chin beard, obviously chin beards must have been a big thing in them their days. To me, only the Amish should have chin beards, but Alan Bates somehow survives with a chin beard. and he's just so good. I think he's still like underrated. He does a lot of great work with his eyes, as most great actors do. So he's kind of underplayed. Peter Finch, who of course is wonderful, gets a lovely meaty role as a man who has everything he wants apart from a woman. Little does he know you don't really need that anyway. But again, it proves money can't buy everything. And he goes through a roller coaster. It's one of those juicy parts that all actors would want. You know, the expression on his face when certain things, he realises certain things about certain characters, and the kind of lack of understanding, because obviously he's in a world where you can get whatever you like, basically. And Terence Stamp is just absolutely wonderful. You would never tell that he was working with a director who didn't really like him. But again, I think he leaned on Nicholas Roeg a lot. So he, looks stunning in the film. Again, the scene in the grass where he's showing off his swordsmanship is just pretty iconic. But he has that feral intensity, but you can see why the ladies would swoon at his feet. And near the end of the film, he almost looks like Count Dracula. I'd be interested to see Stamp in a Dracula film when he was young, because with his dark hair and his black moustache, you could easily see him with fangs. He's just absolutely wonderful in it. Again, as I said at the top, the film is absolutely gorgeous, shot by Nick Roeg, and it's just, the colours are wonderful. You need to see it on as big a screen as possible. It was meant for the big screen. Looking up, I don't know how many versions have been, but there's certainly a 2015 version with Carey Mulligan in the Julie Christie role. I mean, Carey Mulligan or Julie Christie, I'll let you decide. Michael Sheen played the Peter Finch role. Again, Michael Sheen's fine, but he's not Peter Finch. Again, you've got, one of my quick answers to why modern cinema isn't as good, certainly mainstream modern cinema isn't as good. It's a 6-letter word beginning and ending with T, and it's talent. You've got Alan Bates, Peter Finch, Terence Stamp, and on top you've got like Julie Christie, not literally. Modern day cinema just cannot compete with that. There's no Peter Finch, Terence Stamp, Julie Christie, and Alan Bates, no matter how you want to cut it. I mean, you can argue if you like, but look at that. You don't have that nowadays. Look at that moustache. The disc itself has got some nice features, as I said. An interview with Terence Stamp, which looks to be just in a London park, is wonderful, and he gives juicy little tidbits about the production. There's an interview with Frederick Raphael, who adapted the book. It's a really good script. There's an interview with Nicholas Roeg, obviously in the past. Yeah, this came out in 2015, this print, so it's certainly due a 4K. As I said, Studio Canal, some of their 4K choices are a little bit strange, as I said, this demands a 4K. The red of Terence Stamp's jacket and the green of the grass, the cliffs. There's location reports from Far From the Madding Crowd, including the town, and there's a stills gallery. Yeah, it's just absolutely gorgeous. Is it perfect? No. It could probably have been 10 minutes shorter, to be fair. But again, you're just caught up with these four titans. And again, you're trying to tell Julie Christie what to do. But, you know, it's very difficult to tell Julie Christie what to do. So that's my almost film of the year. I could have done this under the guise of I finally watched, because yes, I finally did watch it, but it was just so good, but just not quite as good as The Night Porter. I think everybody had to die, and then maybe it would have beat The Night Porter. But it's still well worth seeing. Still don't understand why it's a U, but sometimes classifications are a little bit weird. Certainly not for, do not show this film to any sheep you have. That's probably the best advice. I suppose don't show it to any cocks you might have as well in the house. So that's my almost film of the year, Far From the Madding Crowd, John Schlesinger, from 1967. Please let me know what you think of this film, and hopefully you'll join me again for almost film of the year reviews. So this is All Your Own from Solitary Films, saying thanks for watching and farewell.